This is your reference photo, and this is your outline. Download them at watsonwatercolor.com. I'm going to start with the faraway sky, and it's almost white, very watery. Any light blue, like cobalt or cerulean, should be fine. I do want it a little lighter in here. But I'm going to give the road a little bit of that same color. I don't want the road to be really blue, so I'll add a touch of burnt sienna. The road has some white lines, which I kind of like, so I'm going to paint around those. And you can see a little bit of the paved curb, the side of the road over here. Now, I don't want the tree to look all alike, so I'm going to do less sponging over here, leave it more open, and maybe get a little more yellow and gold as I come towards the barn. So I'm going to dry that tree and do the tree branches. And I'll wet the tree a little bit, dip my brush in a little of both, and I'm kind of filling in the spots where it wasn't sponged, going around the part that has color on it. So I'm suggesting where the branches are peeking through the leaves. I have the distant hill and the one that's even farther away. I'll do the distant hill first, and I'm going to very carefully paint around some of this sponging. I get a lot of colors in there, purple, blue, brown. Get some nice variety of things going on. If you want to put in the other trees that are even farther away, wet it down. And I just put in the barest hint of color. I'm going to make this tree kind of yellow, but you can make yours any color you like. Add a touch of your green to help it tie in to the other foliage that's in this painting. While that dries, I'm going to make a nice light green. The grass on this side will be that nice spring green. Oh, I went over my white line. I'll have to put that back on with white at the end. And then I'm getting more watery and lighter as I go out. Anytime you can do a graded wash, going from a light to a more saturated color, I would say go for it. Your viewer's eye will follow a change in saturation or value and take you right into this middle part of the picture. Now we're going to want some dark green for this tree in here and this tree right here. This is Perylene Green. I want this dark green tree to look farther away than this dark green tree. So I'm going to make it a little less saturated. I'm adding a little of my lighter green color and maybe a little bit of blue. Things that are farther away are typically a little bit bluer. And just put a touch of red down at the bottom there while it's still wet, and just let it bleed in. It just adds interest. Growing into this tree, I'm going to kind of go around it carefully. And I'm going to go back to my little piece of sponge and do some reverse sponging. I'm going to sponge it this way. One place that people run into trouble is those nebulous areas like underneath this tree. So I'm just going to make it all a fairly dark medium value. You could try sponging behind this tree again. I'm just going to futz it in with my brush. Futz is a good Pennsylvania Dutch word. Next, finally, I'm going to do the barn. I'm going over the whole thing. Some parts of this will be darker, but I'll put the shadows on once I get the entire barn painted. The farmhouse gets a tiny red chimney, and I'm just outlining the windows. You could use an ink pen for this. A lot of students left the house out completely and made the tree bigger. For the barn shadows, darken your red with black or dark green. Paint the big door half dark and half water. Add shadows under all the overhangs, and if you want, add a few brush strokes to suggest boards. Tiny windows are always fun for me, but you can use an ink pen if it's easier for you. The barn roof is light, but don't paint it the same value as the hill behind it. Make sure the roof is either lighter or darker than the distant hill. Mine is going to be a light gray. You want the yellow tree trunk a lighter brown. And then you can add a few grasses and shading. Once again, add some of the trunk in the unpainted areas in the foliage. Now let's get the shadows just right. The shadows curve down the hill with more green, and then they go straight across the road with the darker gray. It's okay if the two colors mix. Don't make your shadows too light in value. And make your shadows have different values and shapes so they don't look like stripes. Last, I'm using an opaque white to put in a tiny fence behind the barn. I like fences and details. A little smoke coming up from the chimney, a light in the window. That tells your viewers this is someone's cozy home. And here's the white for that line I painted over by accident. And now I'm just getting carried away. But details are fun. Join me at watsonwatercolor.com along with thousands of other happy students, and you can learn to paint watercolor free. Happy painting!